Okay, welcome back to Business Owners Speak. Today I'm thrilled to have with us Michael Vergaro with Acticare. How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm good and coming to us from across the globe today. Michael's on a nice little vacation in Australia, and this is a good experience, good opportunity to talk about how business owners should take vacation. So he's built his business to a point where it can work when he's out of the country. Good for you. So let's
Definitely.
start with you telling us a little bit about the business.
Yeah, so I am the owner. I'm the CEO of Acticare. I've owned the business for quite a few years now, and I actually started the business, I would say, a bit in homage to my grandmother. My grandma, she had dementia, she had vascular dementia. She had two strokes, so one in 2010 and then another in 2013. And so that was my first sighting of dementia and really understanding it because before her, I didn't really understand it too well. I was a bit younger, and that was my first time really having my eyes open to it. And also just experiencing her memory loss and experiencing her talking about stories that I was just like, whoa, where's this coming from? What is this about? And just getting accustomed to it. And then my mom was also really big into getting me into this business as well. She was a nurse for over 30 years. So she worked in the emergency room primarily. And she actually said to me, Michael, I know you always wanted to have your own business. Have you ever thought about home care? Being from Florida, you would have thought that, I thought about it a lot since the senior population is so high. It's about 25%. At the time, I was living and working in Washington, D.C., and I was in a completely different career. I worked at the Embassy of Ecuador. So my undergrad was in international relations. And then from there, I worked for a software association called the Software Alliance. And after doing that for so many years, I just realized I'm not happy. I'm not happy working in this cubicle and I'm not happy with the work that I'm doing. It's not satisfying to me. I've always been a very empathetic and compassionate person. I remember this just popped into my head that when I want to say about 17 years old, I was still in high school. I asked my dad if he could take me to Overtown in Miami. Now, Overtown is an area with a lot of homeless people. I mean, at the time, I think now it's being gentrified a lot, but at the time, I remember seeing a lot of homeless people, and I said to my dad, I saw this gentleman, and he seemed to not have clothes, and he seemed to be living in an abandoned area, and I just told him if he could drop me off here. And just right in Overtown, where, in retrospect, I'm like, okay, this looked pretty dangerous. But I went in there and spoke to the guy. I gave him actually some sheets and some covers, and I gave him a whole bag of clothes that I didn't use anymore. And I just told him, look, I just wanted to help out and, just give you some clothes. And even when I was 19, I went on a missionary trip to Russia. It was one of my first experiences being out of the country, and I was gone for 6 months. So I always had this feeling that I need to give back. If I don't give back, I feel like I'm not breathing, and I feel like I'm not really making a difference in this world. So, I think my mom knew that this would be perfect for me because she probably figured I have the business acumen, but I also have the ability to care for people and go as far as possible with that. So we were actually going to potentially go into business together, or at the very least, my mom would have been the registered nurse on staff. But unfortunately, she became ill as well around 2020, I would say. She had diabetes and she had kidney failure. So she was going to dialysis 3 times a week, which made her more and more sick. And we ended up having to come together, my brother and my father, to take care of her. We moved her from Tampa to Miami, and it just escalated pretty quickly. After 6 months, she passed away.
Oh, wow.
So um, I really was like, I need to take this full force, full on, and really champion seniors, especially because my mom implanted that idea in me. And my grandmother, from experiencing seeing her having dementia, I was like, I really need to help people, especially seniors with dementia. So that's why I really ensure with my senior home care business that I go above and beyond, not just for seniors, but for folks that have dementia, Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia, all different types of dementia. I make sure to go as far as possible for them because honestly, they are even more vulnerable than seniors that are in assisted living or in wheelchairs and walkers. And oftentimes they are left behind even more. And when it comes to assisted living memory care, they receive a very tiny budget to give back to them when it comes to entertainment, the caregiver staff, and oftentimes the caregivers are not even very well equipped and educated on how to take care of them. So that's why with my home care business, I've decided to go as far as possible as I can to help them and to make sure my caregivers are educated enough to really take care of them well. So long story short.
No, 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 that's perfect. So you're in DC and you decide, I'm not happy. You had a lot of the family things going on. Was Acticare an existing business or did you start it from the ground up?
It's a franchise.
Okay. And so talk about that process where you just said, you know what, this is it. This is what I'm going to do and jumped all in.
Yeah, so I just did some research and I just figured a franchise would be, potentially a good way to go because, they already have a brand name and can provide a little bit of expertise before I start to work on the business. And then from there, I decided, okay, I'm going to just teach myself as much as possible and train myself because this was new for me, right? I mean, working at the Software Association, I was a senior paralegal. And again, it was completely different. I mean, I was doing intake for whistleblowers on piracy. So that's completely opposite, has nothing to do with compassion. I was telling, essentially my manager how many companies every day that we need to pursue legal action against. So that's extremely aggressive compared to, me hiring caregivers and training them and having and hiring the right caregivers for the job because all caregivers aren't built equally. There's some caregivers that take this much more seriously and go more above and beyond. So I really pride myself in hiring the right care team. So and then even my direct staff, I had to really learn how to search for and hire the direct staff that have the same vision as I do and are willing to really go as far as a bit and above and beyond to take care of seniors because you need a registered nurse on staff. You need folks that work in business development that can help to carry the name of the company and the mission essentially and the very best care staff. You need an accountant, you need a whole team by your side, so that's something that I had to really teach myself as well.
So talk about the staffing challenge, right? That in that industry, I know that is a major challenge and a differentiator, right? Because there are so many home care agencies down here in South Florida. Walk us through kind of your process and what you're looking for in caregivers.
So I think that there's a staffing shortage throughout the country. So I think that's pretty typical. It happens often in healthcare, and that's something that, I heard often before I even started the business, but I didn't realize the seriousness or gravity of it until I started. So what I realized is that a lot of caregivers will work for numerous agencies. So in Palm Beach County alone, there are over 600 agencies. I think the last number I saw was about maybe 650, right? So that's a lot. Now, every agency doesn't do the same thing. Of course, some will focus more on Medicare or Medicaid or VA or private pay. So they're all different, but that's a lot of agencies. But there's also a lot of seniors. So the way that I realized that I would differentiate myself with caregivers and building loyalty around my staff is essentially besides training them, also providing a lot of rewards. So reward systems. So if they would do certain things correctly. So for example, whenever something happens with a client, are you writing an incident report? Are you documenting that? I realize that some caregivers may not document everything that happens. I need everything documented. So if the client has the flu, if they had COVID, if there was a fall, if they were having problems sleeping last night, I need all of that documented because that is going to be very good if a caregiver calls off and another caregiver needs to come in, they know exactly what's going on. That's going to be excellent for the family. And some of these families don't live in Florida. Some families live in New York. So, having the ability to let them know what's going on is very important to me as well. So basically, I have a reward system. So every single thing that they do that I feel like is vital for a CNA or an HHA to do, I have a reward system for that. They get gift cards if they do that well. I've also celebrated their birthdays and I've also taken them out for lunch and dinner. So, or one of my staff has as well. So that's something that has made my company very personable is that I not only know my caregivers really well and their birthdays, their likes and dislikes, and everything about them that they feel so comfortable and that it makes them feel loyal to the company. I mean, I've received some of the best compliments from caregivers that say, wow, there's no other agency like yours and no other that feels as personal as yours. So really, I think when it comes to agencies, when it comes to assisted living, when it comes to any type of company, what matters is how you treat people at the end of the day. If we're taking care of seniors, why aren't we taking care of our caregivers well? So if we take care of our caregivers well, I find that I'm much better able to retain staff.
Sure. And
Yeah.
so, one thing we often talk to our clients, our business owner clients about is diversification and thinking about other revenue streams. And we were talking before we started a little bit about your newest one. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm also the owner of Royal Palm Adult Daycare. It's in Royal Palm Beach, right next to West Palm Beach. And I purchased that business actually quite recently. It was just a bit over a month ago. And a big reason why I decided to purchase that business is because I realized, okay, although I love home care, I really love taking care of seniors and their health. The difference with the adult daycare is that you're focused on their activities and their well-being inside and making sure that they're constantly active. So just like a child daycare, they're dropped off around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they leave around 4 o'clock, and for those 8 hours that I have them moving and singing and dancing all day long. So I have entertainers actually that I've hired. I have a reggae artist, I have a steel drummer, I have Broadway singers, and I also have tribute artists. So primarily it's tribute artists that I've hired. I also have a production company. So the vast majority of the artists that I provide for the seniors at the Royal Palm Adult Daycare are artists that I've already been working with and hiring for years. So I'll just name drop a few. I have Marilyn Monroe, so she goes there and performs. I have Peggy Lee, Sammy Davis Jr., Elvis, Diana Ross, Whitney Houston, Tina Turner. So I have a whole list of tribute artists and also Broadway singers and just different types of variety acts, even Joan Rivers. So I have comedians as well, and I bring them to the adult daycare and they keep them active. And then I also have a Zumba instructor that comes in too. And for my Spanish speaking participants in the adult daycare, I have some Spanish singers as well. So I have a little bit of everything. And the first thing that I did when I purchased the adult daycare is I said, look, I need to give this center a facelift because, I feel like everything has to always have your touch. The whole point of a business, being a business owner and running a business is I think that you need to make sure that it has your touch and that, again, you're going as far with it and using your imagination and vision to make it come alive. So before I even started this business, I had in mind that I want to have a huge mural, right? So then I contacted an artist even before purchasing the business. And the artist was really great. I told him my idea. So essentially, my idea was to have a mural of seniors having so much fun that they almost look like kids. So I said to him, I want it to be so exaggerated that it's like they're doing cartwheels or, they're doing jumping jacks, things that, of course, not all of them can do. And they're just having like the time of their life. And on top of that, I wanted to have like a Florida scenery. So I have alligators, I have iguanas, I have turtles. So all types of like Florida animals and, nature. And it just made the whole scenery like come alive. So he finished it, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, and it's just beautiful. I mean, all of
Right.
the family saw the mural. I had the participants at the center who saw the mural, and they just came up to me and said, and I almost cried. Two of the participants, they came up to me. So we call them participants versus
Mhm.
home care, their clients, and in hospitals, their patients. So two of the participants came up to me and They each individually said to me, "Thank you so much for buying this business." And I was like, "What?" Like they're realizing after 2 weeks that I've made a difference, and they said to me, "We realize how much you care." They said to me that I've made even more time than the previous owners for them, and they could see themselves in the art. I literally had one gentleman named Antonio who said, "That's me." And I'm like, I didn't intend to make it look like him per se. I mean, I did tell the artist kind of the makeup of who comes, and I told him I believe a couple people are Cuban, so maybe, kind of have that vibe. But it's so funny because without him seeing the participants, one of them ended up looking almost exactly like one of the participants, and he's like, "You drew me on the wall," and I'm like, "Oh my God."
Oh,
So,
sure.
uh, yeah, so a couple of them were just like thanking me and just saying, "Wow, like you really put so much into this center." That I already saw an increase even before I came here to Australia of some of them saying, "Hey, I only came for a couple days before because there weren't enough activities. Now I want to come for about 4 or 5 days."
Oh, great.
And they also said they're going to refer some of their neighbors. So I already see a lot of growth in the center just because I put a lot more effort into it.
Yeah. Putting in to get back out, no doubt about that. And especially such an important part of our population down here that does kind of get pushed off to the side. And so for families to be able to find, whether it's in the home or in a daycare center, what a relief, I'm sure, for many of those families that they have a place to go. So, all right. So you're obviously an ambitious entrepreneur. What do you think the future holds for these businesses, or do you want to continue to branch out? What does it look like?
I am considering to branch out a bit more. I have actually looked at the concept of assisted living in a residential form.
Yep.
So having maybe a 10-bed residential assisted living. Ever since I got the adult daycare, of course, I really want to focus on the adult daycare and its expansion as well as continued expansion with the home care. But then I realized, look, maybe this means that I should be in the senior space entirely. I shouldn't just put myself in a box of I just do home care. I think home care is great because, not everyone wants to live at an assisted living facility. I personally, I'm some years away from being a senior, but right now I picture myself just staying at home because I will have all my pictures at home. I will have all of my comfort there. So that is the ideal reason to have home care. With the adult daycare, it's kind of the same concept. You're living at home or you're living in your children's home. But the great thing is now you have other seniors to basically corral with and have a good time with because sometimes you'd want to hang out with people your own age. So to have other people that are your own age and you're playing bingo and dominoes and things like that is just exciting. And the same with assisted living. I know that I can really go far with this and do it well. So why not like put the effort to do something like that as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Michael, you're a young guy, but how about some words of wisdom for other small business owners that are kind of in the fight, trying to make it work? What's some advice you'd give to people in that situation?
I would say the advice that I have is that, look, it's not easy. Okay. I think that since I've been a business owner, that a lot of people have thought like it's glamorous, the life that I live, because they think, oh, he's a business owner. And honestly, the amount of times that I've had it alluded to me that maybe my pockets are huge, or people are, I guess, are counting what I have in my pocket, and you're doing this, you're doing that, you're at a conference and you're leading all these people. I have to say it's not as glamorous as it looks. Everything can fall down on me. Whereas if you are an employee or 1099, I often feel like you don't have that same amount of pressure because I have this pressure that everything has to work. And I know because the limits that I put myself to, like the mural, I did not have to do that, right? I spent thousands of dollars of my own money before seeing any profit, and I will continue to do so because I want things to be amazing to my vision, right? So it's not as glamorous as it looks, but what I will say is it's extremely rewarding, right? And if you care about helping people and if you want to be an entrepreneur, I will say just take the leap and do it. Don't wait until you're much older to do this. Don't wait till you're 40 or you're 50 or you're 60. If you're in your 20s, do it now. If you're in your 30s, do it now. If you're in your 40s, do it now. Don't wait, is what I would say. Of course, I'm all about being strategic and making I guess you could say, a calculated risk. But I would say, don't wait, just do it, and don't overthink anything. The only other piece of advice I would give as well is that, look, we kind of talked about staffing as well and staffing shortages. I would say, making sure you have the right team, which is going to take some time to build. But you not only need the right management and the right team by your side that understands your vision, but you also need to know how to allocate those tasks. And that's something that I did not realize before, and I've become better and better at. But oftentimes I would give someone some certain task, but I would almost give it to them like they're me. And I realized, okay, I can't put the same pressure, or, the same exact pressure of what I would do in those situations. You have to sometimes give people things little by little, or show them what their trajectory would look like, and really know how to bring that down to earth for anyone that you're hiring, because people can get really overwhelmed if you're measuring everybody by how you would do things, and they may not completely understand your vision. So providing the right onboarding process and helping people to understand what your vision is, and uplifting them so that they can be the right care partner for you, the right nurse, the right manager. And that way, it's just a team that is going to run smoothly. And one more thing I would say is time management,
Mm.
because I would say that that is a key. As an owner, I would say oftentimes I'm working almost every day. But as stated in the beginning of the conversation, I'm in Australia, right? So I also learned how to have the time management so that I can also enjoy myself, have some vacations, have time to go do yoga and meditate, have time to exercise, volunteer. I'm a part of different groups like the Rotary Club, right? So if I was just completely immersed in work 24/7 and not thinking about my own self-care and other things that I have to get done in my personal life, then it would all be a complete calamity, right? So making sure that I have time management, journaling, calendaring, having your agenda, putting everything in a way where you're able to get things done without really overwhelming yourself.
That is all right on point, Michael. Really great advice, and kind of gave a picture of how much you have to have your stuff together to all make this work and keep moving forward. So, really interesting chat. Really nice to speak to you. I'm excited to kind of watch what's next for you, because you got a lot going on. But Michael Vergara, all the way from Australia with Acticare, thank you so much for your time this morning. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Matt. Take care. Bye-bye.